Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Human Pulse podcast, where we talk about living well with technology. I'm Fabrice Newman.
And I'm Anne Traeger.
We are recording this on January 26th, 2025.
Human Pulse is never longer than 30 minutes, so let's get started.
All right, Anne. So as we mentioned in the last episode, and not really surprisingly, we have lots more to talk about coffee, right? So let's start with a quick recap. Last episode, we started to talk about coffee drinking temperature. Mine is still 59 degrees Celsius, which is 138 degrees Fahrenheit. I had the time to check this time. And this is thanks to my new, mug that keeps my coffee warm at the preferred temperature, which I haven't changed since last time. We also discussed coffee making temperature, which I settled on 90 degrees Celsius, which is 194 degrees Fahrenheit, as displayed on the tiny screen on our electric kettle. But it seems that you haven't settled for the same temperature, have you?
No, I bump it up to 95 degrees Celsius because I then will measure out my water in my cup before I pour it into the French press, and that reduces the temperature a little bit so that it then it sits in the French press for a little while. So I want to get it to a good drinking temperature when it's time for me to drink it.
Every detail matters. And speaking of detail, there are still a few areas that we haven't touched. And the first of them is how we grind our coffee grounds. Because obviously we wouldn't buy ground coffee, right? So what do?
We buy whole beans.
Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Plus, I would say it's difficult to find the right grind size because maybe it's different in the US, but here in France, when you buy ground coffee, it's always too fine for our preferred methods of making coffee, right? Because we don't use espresso machines. And so what we want is something a little coarser, so a little bigger. And so we can't really find that. And so, but of course, it's not enough to say that we use a grinder. We also searched for the right type of grinder.
Absolutely. Again, so, the details are very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, and maybe some of our listeners will think that we oversimplify to prevent that. But so basically there are two types of grinders, the blade grinding ones and the burr, B-U-R-R grinding ones. And basically, as far as we're concerned, we wouldn't use anything else than a burr grinder. When you use a blade, so rotating blades, it has to go very fast, and sometimes it can burn the coffee beans before breaking it into small pieces, which is not what you want to do because you would add some burning flavor to it.
Yes, so, it's the heat. It heats it up too much.
Yeah, exactly. So we prefer the burr grinding thing, which uses two abrasive surfaces to crush beans to a uniform size, which is what we want as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we're realizing from this conversation, or what I am realizing from this conversation, is that it really is in the details. So we have the size of the grinds, we have the time that it brews, you have the temperature at which you brew it, the temperature at which you drink it, and all of this in order to really enjoy the flavor completely and fully. So it brings us down to being very present in those moments of drinking your coffee. And I really like that. I think those are moments we really can just enjoy a little bit of life, that little slice of life. So there are a few other details.
Yeah. But before that, I wanted to add the fact that I think we were very careful, and it came naturally, to never say that we have the perfect way of making coffee. This is not what we're talking about here. So basically, I think what we're giving here is ways to reach your perfect cup of coffee, not ours.
Absolutely. I think that there's something very much related to biohacking in that. Everybody
Exactly.
here perhaps knows that I am a biohacker. And for me, biohacking is about, first of all, optimizing your environment, both inside and outside, so that it works at its optimal capacity. And it's mostly about experimentation. And that's what we're doing here. We are doing these experiments. We each came up with a different solution for our experiments with coffee in order to enjoy that moment of coffee to its fullest and enjoy the flavors. There are a few other details that I would like to bring in that do seem to me to be important. One is that we always use organic coffee, always, because I'm always trying to avoid having anything that is not part of that ingredient in my taste experience. We can say what we want about the quality of organic certification, depending on where it comes in the world and where you're buying your coffee. That said, an organic coffee will have less crap in it or on it when it was grown than a non-organic coffee. And that's good enough for me. That's the first thing. And the second thing about coffee to really keep in mind is that coffee is very susceptible to mold. So some coffee producers market mold-free coffee. That's wonderful if they can ascertain that it is truly mold-free. Some places you can't ascertain that. It's another reason I like to use whole beans. And I also try to choose high-altitude coffees, and I try to choose coffee beans that come from a single plantation, because I think that this will reduce the possibility of me getting crappy coffee. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but these are choices that I make.
And that also leads to how we keep the coffee, how to preserve it, because we buy a few kilos at a time and we try to keep it the best way we can, which led, for example, at the beginning, we were keeping the coffee beans in the fridge. And at some point you told me, that's not a good method. And can you explain why? Because I don't exactly remember, but it was related to mold, if I remember correctly.
Well, I think, and again, I'd have to go back and do some more research. I remember at the time, first I kept it in the freezer, and then I kept it in the fridge. And then I was thinking about the humidity quantities, and I decided that we would keep it outside in airtight as possible container, and in a cool, dark place. This is a choice for reasons that I am sure there are some coffee lovers out there who will dispute. So again, this is the choice I'm at now. And now that you bring it up, maybe I'll explore it a little bit more and change my mind.
Well, and if any listeners have, some other views or some other methods, we would love to hear them, because we're always on the lookout for new things to learn. So
absolutely. Absolutely. And while we are still on the topic of coffee, tell me how I changed your life with coffee. And this time I will admit it was my fault.
Well, your fault, and thanks to you, because it was actually wonderful. So the idea is to add a few ingredients to coffee. And surprisingly, those ingredients are butter. Yes, you put butter in the coffee, and some type of coconut oil that you will tell us more about it. The thing is, what changed is that the idea is with this butter coffee is to manage your energy in the morning. We already said last time that it's better to wait for 45 minutes to an hour before drinking your coffee in the morning for, all those, managing your cortisol levels. Plus, you can also, add those ingredients to coffee. They have some effects that you will describe, but it was really something for a discovery for me, because I had the same reaction as everyone when we say that we have butter coffee, which means to begin with putting some butter in the coffee, not much, but a bit. And it was like, ooh, why? Like butter in my coffee? And then you think about it, and it's like some people would put a little milk in it or something. And first of all, after my first reaction, I tried it. I loved it taste-wise. Plus, and after a few days, and you'll explain why, I love the effect it had on me for the whole morning. So yes, butter coffee was a revolution, and I still do it, and it's been years.
Absolutely. Wonderful. I love to hear that. And I am not surprised about what you say about the flavor, because anybody who cooks knows that fat is a fabulous vector for flavors. So it just makes the flavor of coffee better. I discovered butter coffee when I got into biohacking, and I discovered Dave Asprey, who popularized what at the time he was calling bulletproof coffee, which is this mixture of coffee with butter and, as you mentioned, coconut oil or medium chain triglycerides, okay, MCT oil. And I'll talk a little bit more about it later. And the idea is that this mix can replace your breakfast, and it can give you lots of energy, and it reduces any kind of brain fog you can have and everything. In my first experience, well, I did it. I didn't find it all that exciting. You know, I put a little butter in, I put a little coconut oil in, and I tasted it, and I thought, oh, what is this? And I love experiments, so I did this for about a month, and I wasn't feeling any of the effects. And I'm like, what is this thing? So I went back to the recipe and realized that I was missing a very important detail. And again, the devil is in the details, really. So I was not blending it. And the whole thing that makes this so powerful is to actually blend it. So I use a plunger blender. You can use any kind of blender. And the idea is to blend it all together. And when I started doing that, all of a sudden I had more energy. I was not hungry anymore. It was really fabulous. And my brain just lit up. Incredible. And that's when I started talking to you about it. And I believe you took a while before you actually decided you would try it.
Yeah, well, because as I was saying, like everybody, it was like, it was a weird idea. Plus, it meant changing my habits, and we know how difficult that is to change your habits and then create new ones. Up until I tried, and so I was really, first of all, I think for me the taste was the first deciding factor because it was really good, and I liked it a lot. No, that's what I meant. And then I could see the effect it had on me. So yes, absolutely, and so now it became a habit that would be very hard for me to change.
Well, I believe it also completely changed your body composition over a period of time.
Well, the thing is, you can use that butter coffee within a keto diet, right? And so, and the idea, first of all, is one of the effects is that when you do that, so this is another important point, is that this is the only thing you have for breakfast. You don't eat anything. The idea is to continue your fast, if you will, up until whenever you can, at least lunch break. And having fat in the coffee helps you do that, which is absolutely amazing.
So you're right, and the fat will make it easier to wait and to prolong your fast, to do what we call intermittent fasting. As some purists will say, but you have fat, so it's not a fast. Okay, whatever. However you want to do that, it is still allows you to not have carbohydrates or protein until later in the day, which is a kind of fast. And the other thing that happens is that by using this healthy fat, and butter is a healthy fat, and MCT oil is a healthy fat, and blending it with the coffee, the fat absorbs the caffeine, and then your body absorbs the caffeine at a slower rate. So it lasts longer. So you have prolonged energy. And I just find that really interesting. Again, it's a technology.
Absolutely.
And it makes for a very rich beverage. So you don't even feel like you want to eat anything else. I mean, really, honestly. And you drink it less quickly. So it's really helpful to have your cup that will keep it warm, because when it's cold, it's not so good. Okay. So, and the other thing that happens is that by blending it, you have the fat and the caffeine all together. And again, it slows down the caffeine release, which means that if you tend to get a jolt from the caffeine because you're drinking caffeinated coffee, well, you don't get that jolt anymore, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the butter is also good for your gut and for your gut bacteria. So there are many, many benefits to doing this. The idea, as you said, is to not have any sugar or carbs. So don't sweeten your coffee and don't, eat a croissant with that, because if you, because then you're competing for different kinds of energy sources. And it's much easier for your body to use anything that is sugar or carbohydrate related than it is for it to use fat, because when it uses the fat, the healthy fat, it's going to go through the liver, which is then going to transform that into ketone bodies that it will then use for energy. And we're very capable of doing this. And the thing is if you add the sugar or carbs to that, well, it's going to use the sugar or carbs because it's a lot faster. And all of that fat is going to go someplace. Usually for me, it's on my hips. Okay. Not where I want it to be, not feeding my brain.
Well, and that's the very important point about sugar. All the things you said are very important to make your body use a certain type of energy items, if you will. But the thing is, in order to make it more palatable, easier to drink, it's true that I also like I like the taste, because it's been years and years since I put, any kind of sweetener in my coffee. And I can't bear putting any amount of sweetener, sugar in my coffee. So if you are drinking coffee in the morning with sugar or anything, the first step I would say would be to try to drink coffee without sugar, right? Because, and I know, and some people can do it and it can be bitter, which leads actually to try and make your coffee differently, because sometimes the bitterness comes from the way you're making your coffee, right? So changing that can make a coffee more easy to drink because it's not as bitter. So, think about your beans and think about the grinder and think about all the things we've talked about beforehand. And then try to drink it without sugar. It can take a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, but then I've talked to so many people about that. After this period of time, putting sugar in your coffee is absolutely unbearable. I'm telling you.
Well,
So
taking away the sugar from the coffee opens up this whole swath of flavors that are related to the more bitter flavors, that spectrum of flavors, which are just masked by sugar. And it does take a period of adaptation, but then you can actually start to appreciate those flavors, which are really very interesting, and it creates a different architecture of flavor in your mouth. So yeah, absolutely. If you're not drinking your coffee straight, drink it straight and see what happens.
And then try the butter coffee and stuff like that. So we'll put in the show notes the link to your blog. If I remember correctly, it's the first article you wrote for your blog many years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's 3 articles that.
Okay, so we'll put the links to the 3 articles, all about the butter coffee, all how to make it, the recipe, and all the effects that you described. And you go into more details about that. So we'll put
absolutely, absolutely, and I recommend that you go in and read those articles. It will explain the MCT oil choice that we use and why we use it. So we won't go into it here. I invite you to go and read that and explore that and give it a try and let us know what your experience is with your coffee. So, and I believe we have now said enough about coffee. What else is new for you, Fabrice? I believe you spent a lot of time recently monitoring the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. Can you give us something on tech, something on living well, maybe something on coffee, if there was anything on coffee? Probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, so before pivoting from coffee, one last thing about coffee. Okay, it's more like, for fun. One of the things that made the rounds at CES this year was this kind of blower robot. So just imagine a tiny thing that you can put on top of your mug. It looks like a cat because, internet, technology, cats that go together. But it's just a tiny thing with a little fan in it. So it will blow on your coffee mug because when you make your coffee with higher temperature water, then it's too hot to drink. And so it will blow on it instead of you doing it. This is stupid. It's made by a company called Yukai Engineering. So I guess it encapsulates the fun that you can have with technology and things you can see during CES. It's fun. I still think that a mug that the one I have is better because if you blow too much on your coffee, then it becomes too cold, and then it's not as good as it's supposed to be. So anyway,
Okay.
we'll put the link in the show notes. But yeah, you mentioned that we like to also talk in a podcast about technology and living well technology and tech that can be good for us, for the world, or for whatever. And there are a few things that I saw during CES that I found very interesting. First, the Nuance audio glasses. I think this is technology used right. So imagine a pair of glasses that looks like a pair of glasses, but they are actually hearing aids. And the idea is to have some kind of hearing aid that does not stigmatize because we all know people who waited a bit too long to get hearing aids because they would say, so if I have that in my ears, that will look old. And so I don't want to have that. So it's just a pair of glasses. Nobody sees that it's anything else than a pair of glasses. But it has obviously microphones and tiny speakers that direct sound directly into your ear canals. And it has two things because in addition to have these microphones and speakers, it also has a camera in it. And the idea is to offer you two types of hearing aids. One is like the normal one. Well, it will amplify sounds so you can hear better. It also uses AI to wash the audio so you can hear more distinctly what you want to hear and not the hum of, whatever. It will help you in that. But the camera also, you can use a more targeted way of using it. So imagine you're talking to a room full of people and there's a whole brouhaha and it makes it difficult for some people to hear and to have a conversation. Using the camera, you can direct the hearing aid part directly on the person you're speaking to and almost getting rid of any other sound. And thanks to AI and the progress in audio, microphones, stuff like that. And that blew me away. I mean, that's exactly what tech should be for, helping people and using the tech we have available to help people have a better life. And so these are made by Nuance Audio. It's a brand name from Essilor Luxottica. So this is one of those three very big companies in the world making, lenses for glasses and frames, and have lots of different brand names and stuff like that. So that was amazing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Like coffee, hearing well contributes to longevity. So there is a connection there. And we can talk more about it in another episode, but actually getting what you need to keep up your hearing is very good for brain health and for continued brain health. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Absolutely. And to end up with a smile, there's another tech we saw there. It's a French company. Actually, it's called Cryptors in the City. So it's not a French name, but what tech is all about. Cryptors in the City. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. And it's a way for cities to add places where you can scan a code or an image and have historical information on the place you're at in augmented reality through your smartphone. It's amazing. We had a taste of that. We visited a place, a big like church that had this kind of technology where you could have characters explaining what happened 1,000 years ago in augmented reality. And it was really great. And so you can go on the website, you'll see what it is, cryptorsinthecity.com. I think it's great to have that possibility to enhance your visit of historical places.
Well, thank you, Fabrice, for sharing those fun finds. And I believe we've come to the end of our time for today.
Exactly. That's it for episode 10 of our foray into coffee. I think 2 episodes will be enough for now, but who knows?
Maybe not. Maybe there are other things we can talk about too, and we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Until then, thank you all for joining us. Visit humanpulsepodcast.com for links in past episodes and leave a review to support the show.
Thank you for subscribing and sharing and being part of our community. Please do share this episode with one person who loves their coffee, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone.